kennels in itself need to be proper for the dogs. They need to have space to turn around in those kennels. They need to have space to move freely, to jump. It can't be too small that it confines all their movement.
And on the note of breed, it is important to know the breed of puppy that you have, because that way you're able to know which chow is best suitable for this puppy. So you have a small breed, or you have a large breed, you have mixed breed. Some folks, you may actually, let's just say that you picked up a stray puppy and you took it home. You might not even know the breed, so you might think that, oh, well, any old puppy chow might work.
Yeah, well, there are some puppy chows that are very general. So you can try things like that for a puppy whose breed you have not yet determined. When that puppy starts to grow, you get an idea. But also, when you put that chow there, your best gauge is really to see how he handles it. I've seen really tiny puppies that are so hungry, especially rescues. They're so hungry. They take up and they find a way to eat anything that they're given. But ideally, yeah, you should really look at your breed to determine not only for the pellet size, it's also the nutritional value for a small breed would be different from that of a large breed. But where it's not possible, I mean, you give what's available. It's also with consultation. I mean, vets can help a lot with that. They can look at a puppy and sometimes they can guide you in terms of what they think the breeds might be. They could look at the size of the puppy and the way it's growing and guide you to tell you, well, this dog is going to be small as an adult, or it's going to be probably about 30 pounds as an adult, or it's going to be about 60 pounds as an adult. So you have a general idea of how to proceed with feeding.
Is it safe to give a puppy coconut water?
Yes, that's totally safe actually. It's actually one of the recommendations we have. So if you have a dehydrated puppy or a puppy that's not eating properly, or we're treating things like gastros in puppies and you want to hydrate, young coconut water actually is pretty good. It not only provides the hydration, it contains a lot of nutrients in it, natural nutrients in it. So it's not harmful. It's not harmful at all. It can actually be quite beneficial. So the next part of our basic management would be providing proper shelter and safety. So the environment in which they're kept. So of course they need shelter from rain, from the extremes of rain, sun. You need to have that, it needs to be clean, just like the things that we need to have a clean environment to prevent contact with harmful bacteria and viruses and microorganisms in our environment. They need a clean kennel, they need a clean yard. If you have a yard with nails or wires, or even things like chemicals or pools or deep drains, even a simple thing like a drain that a puppy can escape through, you need to secure that environment. So environment is actually very important. Sometimes we have rescues and we can put them in dogs that change environments. They come from one home to another and they're a little scared, they're a little panicked, and sometimes they just try to get out, and then we end up in a little bit of a pickle because now we have to go look for a tiny little puppy that's squeezed through a part of a drain. So when I used to do rehomes, one of the things I always did was to check that environment, make sure there was no way that puppy could get out of the yard. Maybe even if it came out of the kennel, it could not get out of the yard. In terms of also providing proper shelter, I'm mentioning kennels, but kennels in itself need to be proper for the dogs. They need to have space to turn around in those kennels. They need to have space to move freely, to jump. It can't be too small that it confines all their movement, right? That is important. Exercise, which is what we'll also discuss. Exercise is also important. That physical ability to move is also important for development. So proper kennel space is very, very important. The location of your kennel away from the sun, sun, the rain, the elements. There needs to be enough airflow into there. Some dogs, we have a lot of husky puppies now, and it's important to put them in areas where those puppies are going to be have the ability to stay cool if they have to be kennelled. Those are double coated dogs. Those are bred for cold climates. We aren't a cold climate at all. So temperature control, the ability to stay cool, it's extremely important to those dogs so that they don't suffer from heat stress and heat stroke.
Not just holes in the drains around your house, but you also have to make sure that under that note of cleanliness, that you don't have rodents, you don't have rats, you don't have frogs, because puppies, by nature, as you mentioned before, are very inquisitive, and they go poking and prodding in places, and sometimes in places that you never would expect them to be. And because they're curious and playful, they may interfere with rodents that can also be quite detrimental.
A clean environment, not only meaning that clean away from that their waste products have been removed, but as you said, rodents and so on don't make it into that environment because they can bring organisms into the environment that can lead to very serious diseases in the puppies. And some of these diseases are actually contagious to humans also. But we will be talking about that as well. But that's how important it is. It's not trivial at all to keep that environment clean.
And also with cleaning your surroundings, what about the use of insecticides and weedicides? If you spray your grass, you're spraying your drain. What do you do with your pets, especially your puppies, to keep them safe?
Well, for puppies and all dogs, because these are chemicals that we're dealing with, you keep your pets away from that area. So usually, depending on the chemical, you'd get some information on it. You would know exactly how to use it. And if you're spraying, the active form is usually the wet form. So you would remove your pets out of that environment while you're spraying. The dry form is usually the safer form. So you would usually do it on, let's say, a hot day, probably around midday, so it dries faster, so you can put your pets back into the environment. And when you are spraying, you also have to be aware that there's a wind factor, so sometimes the wind can blow the mist or the spray onto the pets, depending on where you put them. So they have to be located away from that, where it can actually blow back onto them. You also want to remove things like their water bowls, their food bowls, their toys away from any areas that are being sprayed. Because those chemicals are going to land in their food or their water or their food bowls or on their toys, and they come back and then they play and they eat or they drink and then they ingest some of that chemical.
So from food to water to shelter and surroundings, what's next?
Yes. So we also need to keep our pets clean. Puppies also need to be clean. They are also susceptible to things like skin diseases. So we need the frequency of bathing. Usually it's recommended once every 3 to 4 weeks. But again, puppies are like mischievous little children. They step in their food, they step in their urine, they get into, they roll in the mud and they're all happy about that. And sometimes these are house dogs. A lot of them, they live inside the house. To tie it back, we want to keep the environment clean, but we want to keep the puppy clean as well. So regular bathing and grooming are important for the puppies. If you do have to bathe a puppy more than every 3 weeks or so, a mild baby shampoo or puppy shampoo works well. The reason for that is that it doesn't strip off all the oils or essential oils from the fur, the coat, and the skin, and make it dry and itchy. Right. So what you're using, so puppy shampoos are really good, ideal. I would say things not to use: do not use Breeze, do not use bleach, do not use harsh detergents on your dog. The same things that it would do to our skin is what it would do to their skin, especially a puppy with very, very tender skin. So the puppy shampoos, you can also explore the options of keeping them clean using things like wet wipes or general rinsing. For a small puppy, a puppy that's kept in the house, you can rinse that puppy off quite easily, or rinse off spot clean. So spot clean the face, spot clean the paws.
What about the use of soap to bathe your dog, your puppy?
Yeah, soap is a little bit, again, it's a little bit harsh. So I guess it depends on the type of soap. So a very mild soap if it has to be used at all. But anything very harsh, blue soap is really very harsh to use on a puppy.
Blue soap.
Yeah. So I mean, again, culturally, a lot of people use those soaps on dogs, but
Mm-hmm.
if you use blue soap on a dog every 2 weeks or so, I think it's going to cause a little bit of dryness to the skin and the fur and irritation. When that fur starts to get dry, it starts to get tangled and knotted. And the skin, when it starts to dry out as well, when the oils are removed, it starts to get itchy. And when a dog starts itching, that layer of skin is there to protect your body. It's a layer of protection. It's like, let's say it's a plastic wrap on something. When you take that off, you have access to what's underneath. So
Correct.
when you start scratching, you break into that skin. You now allow other things to get into the body that should not be getting in there. So I mean, as it sounds very simple. It sounds like a small thing, but it does lead to bigger problems. So
What about their teeth?
generally, they change their teeth at 4 months and 6 months of age. So they actually they move from baby teeth to permanent teeth, just like we do at their particular ages and stages of development. Um, their teeth, for puppy in particular, let's say less than 1 year or up to 1 to 2 years old, it's generally not too bad in terms of developing plaque or tartar or dental or gum disease. So dentals are not really um, required highly. For dogs, how we do dentals is we have to put them under general anesthesia because no dog is going to sit and say and keep it open for us to do what we have to do. I mean, and if they chomp down, our hands might be in there too.
Correct.
So right. So, but it's not just about the safety. It's not practical. So they have to go under general anesthesia. General anesthesia means in putting some chemicals exposing the body and its organs to drugs, to pharmaceuticals of a chemical nature. And we don't want to really do that with puppies. Their organs are young, they're developing. So where we can avoid it for things that aren't necessary, we try to do that. So, but it's also not, as I said, it's not really required at that very young age. You usually find dentals more being required more by older dogs who now have a buildup of plaque or tartar or the propensity for dental, for gum disease developing.
Right.
And then they go under that general anesthesia and it's performed. But I do have clients who also brush their dog's teeth. And I have a client who brushes their dog's teeth, I think, almost every day. And
Wow.
they said he allows them to, and his teeth are actually in pretty good condition.
Well, I would think so if you're brushing every day.
But I can't guarantee that that is going to be every dog,
I can tell you
every
that is
puppy.
not the case with my dogs. They will only open the mouth if it's something to eat, and if it's an edible toothbrush, they will take care of that. And if it's not an edible toothbrush, they will make it an edible toothbrush. So, not with my dogs.
Yeah, but that does okay. But then there are things to slow the progression. So puppies generally don't have a lot of teeth issues, dental issues. um, in terms of the plaque and the tartar and so on. But adult dogs might, and to slowly transition from getting to puppy to adult dog with dental issues. There are also things like dentist and there are these things available that they can chew on to help clean the teeth. Yeah, so there are lots of things available now. But there was actually one more thing about keeping them clean is the ticks and fleas.
Of
So
course,
having a
yes.
proper protocol using safe agents for eliminating ticks and fleas is important on it affects the health of the puppy. These things feed on the blood of the puppy and they can also put organisms into the bloodstream of the puppy that cause disease. So proper tick and flea control that is relevant, that is safe for a puppy is also very, very important. And now we're on to the things like exercise. So again, don't underestimate the value of exercise to proper management of a puppy, because that affects the way he grows. Just like again, a child that's allowed to exercise and run, develop his muscles and for bone growth, that makes a difference to the puppy as well. So sometimes you see puppies that are kennelled all day and they have no opportunity to get out, or they're chained on short chains for the majority of their time, for the majority of the day. And that actually limits a lot of it limits some of their physical ability to grow. So even if they have to be chained, which is not really always the best policy. Shading should really always be for short periods of time. That's ideal if it has to be done, and for the safety and convenience of the owner, but not for the entire life of the puppy or a dog. A chaining and constant kenneling, it does have some negative effect on the growth. It may not be very obvious because we'll never know how big he would have gotten. He spends his
Yeah.
life on a chain versus being out. But I mean, think about it in terms of having him himself sitting all the time. When you confined to a bed, let's say when you're on bed rest, you have muscle atrophy. Your muscles don't get to grow. Your muscles
Correct.
actually shrink. And the opposite would be true. If you get to exercise those muscles, they get to develop. And it's the same thing. These dogs are their bone, their muscle, their blood, their tissue. That's their physical composition. It's just, as I said, like ours. So same basic principles would apply.
So, what can we do to create a safer and more comfortable space for our fabulous pals? Catch up in our next episode. Drop me a line on Facebook or Instagram at Karen KD Jazz. If you'd like to get in touch with Dr. Nisshi Seepersad, you can find her on Facebook or Instagram at First Line Veterinary Plus, email or WhatsApp 478 8476. This has been a KDC production.